welcome to G Tech Talk. My name is Eva Martins from GTE, and today I'm speaking to Michael Berns, who is Director for AI and FinTech at PwC, who will be sharing his views on the current and future artificial intelligence trends. Hi, Michael. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure discussing AI with you.
Excellent. So we're gonna dive straight in and get started with the first question. Michael, how would you describe the current AI technology industry?
We kind of have to separate the industry as a whole as to what kind of arrives at the consumers and the companies. And I think the two concurrent trends that you see in the market is a bit of a regulatory climb down in China over the last half year or so in terms of how AI can be used in some views. Also before that in California with some of the data privacy regulations that come in. So kind of the two blocks that were far ahead of Europe are kind of now looking at some other aspects of this. At the same time, Europe is still kind of finding its pace with a number of regulations and also initiatives around Gaia X out there. But it's not a defined future yet. They know that they have to catch up. And all this from a government point of view at the same time as kind of the arrival of these ever bigger large language models where you can essentially do anything with. It's just that for most use cases from an ordinary perspective, they're probably overkill. So you have the technology available, but it's not there fully integrated in use cases yet, or it's not fully leveraged yet. Interesting times for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Michael. And in relation to that, how do you see the AI technology evolving over the next years?
So in an age of responsible AI, like what I said for the first question, the pure technology in terms of what's feasible is already long overtaking the actual use case. So what it means is that you will see much more transparency on the use and value of data. Consumers and companies will want something in return, a kind of equation that so far worked, for example, in China, but an equation that doesn't work for us yet when you think about social media and different companies rebranding themselves and all of this. But when you kind of think what the involvement will be, particularly also in the area of sustainability, there will be more AI, but AI will become kind of be part of the background of many applications and be powering a lot of platforms, and we will not always be seeing that. But for some areas like sustainability, it will be at the forefront of guiding the efforts to where the focus needs to be.
Mm-hmm. So where should the focus be? What would you recommend companies to focus on to not miss out on having a competitive advantage by using artificial intelligence in their organization?
Yeah, so over the last 8 years, I had the pleasure of helping quite a few corporates, some of the largest banks in the world, to really start with the topic of artificial intelligence. And when they started out there, it was driven by the circumstances, but they all still started with what's in there for them in terms of their business case. And what became very clear is that it's something that needs to be communicated down through the different layers of the organization to be able to take the organization with you, because it's not just something that can be decided at top, or we are now using AI. It's something where it's not a quick win. You do need to do your homework in terms of data and preparation, also in terms of the infrastructure, and then work with the colleagues from data privacy, legal, and so on to determine what are the actual use cases you're able to do with the data that you got. So it's kind of like, let's say the weakest link played across a number of dimensions. And if you don't want to kind of miss out on the benefits, which are clearly obvious in many areas, it's important to get started with some working groups around data and technology, everything that is kind of digital, to really build the stack that is then used to even get started with some experiments in terms of machine learning and other related areas.
Thank you, Michael. Very useful advice. I know that you're passionate about innovation and sustainability. How could AI be used to drive these two very important topics?
So for me, innovation has been really at the core of a lot of my work over the last 20 years, always working for some innovative vendors in that space, building products in that. And when I think about innovation, past time it would be more like a brainstorm. And when you do brainstorming, but you take global data into it that you might have gathered from the news or from social media sources, you can kind of make innovation quite driven in terms of what are the products that are where there's actually in demand out there. And then combining that with sustainability in the way that I've described it in my TED talk earlier this year. I believe that in the sustainability area, we have such big challenges that are near impossible to overcome with the current tools and the current mechanisms that we use. And in there, it's absolutely necessary that we use AI to guide our efforts. So for example, when it comes to energy, if we want to be more effective and competitive with alternative energy and make a transfer, we need to be able to predict better in terms of how do we need to direct the solar panels, how can we leverage the wind more. These are all things where alternative data, satellite images, IoT together with AI can bring a huge benefit and make them effective. In the same areas like transport or farming or water management, all of these have AI use cases where either pollution is avoided or efficiencies are gained. And those four industries alone would make a massive impact and help for the better. But there's, of course, other sectors we have to target.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. And we're coming to the last question for today. Given the change in government in Germany and the UN climate conference, what would you wish for from an AI perspective?
So, I mean, personally, I feel that the new government will be probably quite a young one, people that want to go out all the way in terms of digital and a sustainable agenda. I'm not quite sure if kind of the awareness is there in terms of the benefits that AI can bring. Sometimes in the past, it's also taking the citizens with you in terms of making individuals confident that this is something that of course has good and bad sides, like the internet or other things that can be used in different ways. But without it, we just lack a lot of the insight that we need to bring us forward in terms of sustainability. And when it's in terms of the UN discussions, I would also hope that artificial intelligence has a prominent place there, just because of the importance that we said in terms of to solve those really big, tricky problems. We do need those insights. And as a human, we would just get overwhelmed by the data. So we need the machine to tell us these are the key areas of focus. This is where we should put our efforts. Otherwise, it will be a lot of investment, but not all will be efficiently used to drive the right incentives and have the right outcomes.
Thank you so much for joining and sharing your perspectives today, Michael. It's very, very useful. I think there's a lot of food for thought there that our viewers can think about, and hopefully AI will help us in terms of sustainability and innovation further along in the future. And I hope to speak to you soon again.
Thank you very much, Eva. It was a pleasure to discuss those things with you. Hopefully join you one of these roundtables again soon.
Thank you.
Mm.